All right, let's talk about coffee. For so many of us, that first cup of the day, it's not just a drink, it's a lifeline. It's the ritual that gets us going. But what happens when that ritual starts to feel more like a trap? Well, today, we're going to get into a much smarter way to get your energy back on your own terms, moving from that frantic coffee jolt to a more, well, zen-like state.
Does this sound at all familiar? You get that massive energy spike in the morning, but then, like clockwork, the afternoon crash hits you like a ton of bricks. You feel jittery, and you know, deep down, you don't just want that coffee, you need it just to function. If you're nodding along, don't worry, you're not alone, and there's a way out of this cycle that doesn't involve a huge, painful struggle.
Okay, so the whole issue really boils down to this chart right here. Take a look. Your average cup of coffee is packing about 95 milligrams of caffeine. Now look at black tea, it has less than half of that, and green tea, even less. This huge caffeine gap is precisely why that coffee dependency cycle is so incredibly hard to break.
So let's actually dig into the science behind this caffeine trap. It's that super high dose of caffeine that creates such a powerful and frankly addictive response in our bodies. And that's what makes the withdrawal so intense when you try to stop.
And this is exactly why quitting cold turkey feels absolutely brutal. I mean, within just 12 to 24 hours, you can get hit with splitting headaches, total exhaustion, you're irritable, you can't focus, and this can last for up to 9 days. That pounding headache you feel, that's literally the blood vessels in your brain, which were squeezed tight by caffeine, suddenly expanding back to normal. So yeah, it's no wonder we just give in and pour another cup.
Which brings us to a really important idea. If you've tried to quit coffee before and failed, listen up. It is not because you lack willpower. The truth is, relying on sheer brute force is just the wrong strategy. It completely goes against how our brains are naturally wired to work. You see, our brains are hardwired to follow something called the principle of least effort. Now, this isn't about being lazy, it's about being efficient. Our brains will always choose the easiest possible path to get a reward. Trying to quit coffee cold turkey? That's the path of most resistance. It's an uphill battle, and that's why it almost never works.
So if willpower isn't the answer, what is? Well, it's a much smarter approach called behavioral substitution. And the strategy is genius in its simplicity. Instead of fighting your entire habit, you just change one little piece of it. You keep the cue, say your morning alarm, and you keep the reward, that feeling of a warm, comforting drink, but you just swap out the routine itself.
And this leads us directly to the solution. It's a really practical, easy-to-remember strategy that puts all these psychological tricks into action. Let's talk about the Big Mug method. Okay, here's how it works. Step 1. Go big. Seriously, swap your little coffee cup for a giant 14 to 24-ounce mug. This uses something called container psychology. Basically, our brains think a bigger container means a bigger reward. It just feels more substantial. Step 2, you stretch out the ritual. Sipping on a huge mug of tea takes way longer than downing an espresso. It turns that frantic quick fix into a calm, mindful moment. And third, this is the key, behavioral substitution in action. You just swap the coffee for tea. You're not breaking the habit, you're just tweaking it.
But you might be wondering, why tea? Well, it's not just about having less caffeine. It's about a totally different kind of energy. Coffee gives you that intense, sharp jolt that, as we know, often leads to a nasty crash later. Tea, on the other hand, it gives you this smooth, sustained energy. It's more of a calm, focused alertness. Jolt versus Zen.
And here's the secret weapon behind that calm alertness. Tea has this amazing amino acid in it called L-theanine. What it does is it actually promotes alpha brain waves in your brain. Those are the same waves associated with being relaxed but focused, kind of like when you're meditating. This is what smooths out the caffeine kick, getting rid of the jitters. It's the perfect partnership for clean, focused energy. It's literally the Zen in your mug.
All right, so we get the what and the why. Now let's get practical. Let's build your actual playbook for making this switch happen in the real world.
First off, you gotta be realistic. Building a new habit doesn't happen overnight. Start slow. For the first week or two, just replace one of your daily coffees with a big mug of tea. Yeah, you might still feel some mild withdrawal, but it'll be so much more manageable. After a few weeks, the cravings will fade, and by weeks 7 to 10, that new tea ritual will start to feel totally natural, totally automatic.
Now for a few pro tips to make this even easier. Start with a really robust black tea, like an English breakfast or an Assam. They have a richer flavor that can feel more satisfying. And hey, don't be afraid to add stuff. Lemon, honey, ginger, make it delicious. And what about when you're out? Easy. Just order a tea. If you're with coworkers and feel weird, you can always frame it as a little biohack you're trying to optimize your focus and productivity. Trust me, it works.
So finally, let's just zoom out for a second and look at the bigger picture here. This whole thing is really about shifting your entire perspective from a mindless routine to a much more mindful ritual.
And let's be super clear. Coffee's not the enemy here. This is not about demonizing coffee. The real target is the dependency, that automatic, unconscious habit that has more control over you than you have over it. The whole goal is just to take back that control, to choose how you want to energize your day intentionally.
So in the end, this isn't really about what's in your mug. It's about the incredible power we have to transform a mindless habit into a mindful ritual. And that idea, that goes way beyond just coffee or tea. So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. What's one routine in your life, just one, that you could elevate into a more meaningful ritual starting today?